Well, the ice and snow have finally melted. We're able to get back in the shop and pick up where we left off. Still working on the Ford Expedition and got some parts in, so we're able to start putting things back together. Hang on, this is A&A. Okay, get you guys on the work table here so you can kind of see what I'm doing. This is the old set. What I'm counting is I've got 4 clutch discs and 5 spacers. Now, one of those spacers doesn't have any teeth on it like the others. So I've got 4 spacers with teeth. I've got one that doesn't have teeth, which goes against my spring here. Now the kit comes with 8 total, 4 per side with teeth, and 4 per side of clutch discs. So that is telling me I'm going to have to reuse. I suppose I'm going to have to reuse this. This may be some kind of a bushing. I don't know, but this is the one with no teeth, and it's the one that goes after you put the spring in. The one without teeth goes, and then we start with the clutch discs. All right, so I've got these old ones cleaned up best I can. There's still a little bit of oily residue on them, but I don't think it's going to affect what we're about to do, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. We'll take these old ones. We're just going to put a clamp on them, and we're not trying to just compress them as much as we can. We just want to hold them together, get rid of any air gaps, so we can get a fairly accurate gauge of what the thickness is, because then we're going to measure the new ones, and we should see a slight increase in the thickness of the new ones over the old ones. All right, so we've got them lightly compressed there just to get a good reading. Zero our caliper out, roll it back, see what we get here. I'm gonna say 0.665. So let's just make a note of that. 0.665. Okay. And we're gonna take our new set, have the same number of spacers, same number of discs. I'll put a little clamp on them, and we're going to see what we get. 0.678. So it is what we'd hoped for. It is slightly larger. It's actually 13 thousandths larger. So that's exactly what we wanted to see. I looked at the bearings. You know, we said last time that we would replace the seals, but hopefully we wouldn't have to replace the bearings. We are going to have to replace the bearings. There's too much play in them. Plus, we're already in there. It's easier just to buy the set, the bearings and the seals. And the seals are pretty easy to get out. It's the bearings that are a little bit of a task. Let me show you what I've got in mind, and we'll see if it works. With limited slip differentials, the clutch packs have to be soaked in a friction modifier, and You can pick that up from pretty much any auto parts store. There's different brands. It'll say for limited slip. It'll say supplement. You want to get a bottle of that, and don't tell Angie that we took one of our Tupperware bowls, but it's perfect size. So thanks, Angie, for donating this, by the way. You just didn't know you were doing it. Gonna pour the friction modifier, pour it over our clutch discs, and first of all, it smells really bad, like really bad. So we're gonna let those soak, give it, I don't know. Some people do it for 15 minutes. Some people do it for several hours. I'd give it about an hour or so. And then we'll put the others in the soak while we're putting these back together with the gear and getting them in the differential. So we'll let that sit for a while. It even came with this fancy new top. Nice Rubbermaid sandwich container. Thanks again, Angela. Okay, so this is the driver's side rear, and this thing is really sloppy in there. And like I said, we're already in here. The whole set doesn't cost that much more. And what you certainly don't want to do is, as soon as you get all this put back together, rolling down the road, and then all of a sudden your bearing starts going out. You have to go through all of this again. Not all of it, but you still have to tear back into your differential, lose all that fluid that you spent money on and put in there. So we're just going to do this now. We'll end up going to auto parts store and renting the tool with the slide hammer, and which I dread, but we'll get that, and then we'll get back on that little project. Right now I've got the clutch discs, the spacers, and all put back together for the driver's side, and we're going to go ahead and put those in. We're going to get the ones here on the driver's side, then we're going to put together the ones for the passenger side. We're going to get those in there, and it all put together right here. The spring edge points towards the brakes. So we're going to get these in, and then you basically have to fashion your own tool to put in here, and you have to push both of these gears apart. Once we get them in here, we'll have to push this one and the other one apart, fully depress both of them so that we can get our spider gears in. So the tabs on these clutch discs, of course you have to have something to keep them from spinning when the limited slip engages. Tabs on these clutch discs, there's a groove for them to fit in, so it's really only one way it could go. So we're going to go ahead and slide these in. Once again, there is not an abundance of room, so just, and these, if you've got big ogre hands like I do, they're not very dainty. You really don't have much room, but I think we can get it. Once we get them in here, make sure nothing falls off. You can put your finger through the middle of it just to kind of make sure everything holds together. And then we try to find the groove, which I think we just did. And yep, we did. Everything went in there perfect. So there you go. That one's in. It's going to want to fall out. So we'll just easily leave it like that. Then we'll get the other one in, and then we'll get our homemade tool in here. Rented the tool, and I've only pulled on it twice, and I've already almost got the bearing out. So I don't know what I'm doing different than some of the other guys on some of the other videos where they were really working hard to get this thing out. It's a 5-pound slide hammer. So another couple of pulls on this, and she should be out. So let's see. Three more pulls and it came out. So that's the old bearing. The tool actually was very easy to use. A total of 4 pulls and she came out. So I'm very thrilled with that. I'm going to clean all this up right here. We'll install the bearing. It'll be easier to install than it was to pull out. We'll install the bearing. Then we'll get the new seal in here. Before we do that though, we're going to clean this tube out. So there you go. We'll do the other side. Then we'll start to clean up of the tube, clean up around the surfaces here, get ready for our new bearing and our new seal. Okay, we're around here on the passenger side now, and I just wanted to show you removing the seal and the bearing from start to finish. And the seal, at least on the driver's side, was pretty easy to get out. Now, you can use a seal puller and stuff like that, but if you've got a long bar, which I happen to have a nice long one here, it wasn't too bad on the driver's side. To just pry it out. There's your seal. Then we'll use our tool that you can get at the auto parts store. The Loan a Tool program is a wonderful thing for tools that you use rarely. You just slide it in there, and the end pivots so it's locked in place. Push the washer up against the bearing. So we tighten the nut up against the washer, and that just it keeps that end in there from keeps it up against the bearing nice and firm, so it doesn't, you know, have a lot of room, a lot of play room. All right, so we got the nut tight, our slide hammer's tight, and so the other side, it only took us 4 pulls. So let's see. That didn't budge. It's gonna give us a little trouble, I think. All right, that's what happens sometimes. It kind of came out in pieces. Some of the rollers just went flying, so we still don't have it out. We've got it to the edge, so we're going to reposition. I'm going to reposition it in there, grab it from a different spot. But this side is in a lot tighter than the other side was. So it's okay though. We've got it on the edge. I think we can get it out the rest of the way. If it'll just hold together. It may not hold together for us. I don't think it's going to, but well, it just barely it just barely held together long enough to get it out. And I'm glad, because I didn't want to wrestle with that thing. Okay, got you back here, and what I have come up with is the world's largest Q-tip. What I'm going to do, all I got is a shop rag, and it's taped to the end of small thread. Going to run this up to where the differential is. There's a bearing in this tube at the differential side, and so I'm going to start there, and I'm going to pull back so that all the gunk can come out this end. Because we don't have a bearing or anything, it's easier just to bring it up this side than to push it back into the differential. So I'm going to try and hold it up on the top of the tube until I get down there and I hit the bearing, which I just did. So I'm gonna drop it down, maybe twist it a little bit right there at that bearing to, you know. Now, we're gonna pull it back to us. That's all the gunk has settled down here in the bottom. And yeah, that's nice and gross. So let's do it again. Push it in, right up against the bearing. Pull it back. And so we're going to do that until we get the tube clean. Okay, so I got the light down there. And if you'll see, we scraped the bottom twice. And you can see that, but we've still got a lot of gunk on the side there. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get me a clean rag. Then we'll work on these sides. We'll pull it a few more times, and this side we'll call done. Then we'll move to the other side. Okay, we got our bearings and our seals in. We have them, we've received them, and so now we're going to install them with a bearing and seal tool. And so what we're going to do is, out of the set, you want to pick one of the attachments that's just a little bit smaller than the diameter of your bearing. That way you get the most strength out of it, and you don't damage the bearing. So you get this assembled, get the tool assembled, and then we will install the bearing, then we'll install the seal. Then we'll move to the other side and do the same. Now, installing it should go much easier than when we had to pull it, but pulling it actually didn't go that bad. Okay, we've gotten it started. It's going in nice and even. So we're just going to maintain that nice steady pressure on it. And you can feel it when it bottoms out. You can hear it also, the sound of the hammer. And all of a sudden it sounds a lot higher, and your hammer will actually kind of bounce back. All right, those last two hits, you should have heard a difference in the tone of the sound. It's because the bearing has bottomed out and it's right where it needs to be. Nice new bearing there, and we'll put a little lube on it before we actually install the axle. We'll lube the bearing and the lip of the seal, because once we install the shaft, the axle, you certainly don't want it to start off dry. That will damage it. And of course, what lubricates all of this is your gear oil. So let's get this seal installed now. So this is the outside of the seal. So we're going to mount it just like that. Once again, we need to find one of our attachments for our tool that's the right size for our seal. And in this case, that right there is just about perfect. All right, so we've got our tool assembled. Now then, we're going to get the seal installed. Again, you want it to go evenly, but you know, it's starting to get cockeyed, so put a little pressure on the other side to try to straighten it up. Okay, it's straightened up. So we'll go back. You hear that sound? That was it bottoming out. So, just want to check, make sure we don't have any gaps around the edge. You can just use your fingernail, because when that lip of that seal is completely seated, you won't have any gaps. All right, so our seal is fully seated. Okay, so let me show you what I've got for compressing the springs on the clutch packs. Here's my homemade tool. It's a piece of threaded rod, and I'll show you what's happening in the differential. Piece of threaded rod with some vice grips on it, wedged to the brake shoes, the parking brake shoes, to keep them from moving so the rod doesn't spin. I'll take you under here and show you how this works. So you basically push the rod on through until it's sticking out enough to get the nut and washers for this side on. Keep threading it through, get just enough threads to get this nut on. But the washers, and you have to buy some washers that are just the right size to fit up in these gears. They have a lip in there and they'll fit right up in there where the keeper is supposed to rest. Get some washers that fit in there just perfect. And so that's the washers we got so that it can push on this gear. So you put the second nut on, you thread it, you thread it, you thread it, till you get enough thread sticking out to where you can put the washer on. And you need about 4 more hands, 2 helpers, and some Barbie doll size hands, which I don't have, to get this to work a little easier. But it does work. Okay, got you back under here. I'm going to show you the spider gear. This thing has it's a little washer that I've got it glued on with some gear oil right now, but I was going to pull it off to show you, but it won't come off. It's a little washer, and when you're doing this, those things will fall off and just, you know, make you pull your hair out. But a way to keep them from falling off, and this one's stuck really good, I can't even get it back on, but you can see it turning. Put your a little gear oil between the washer and the gear. That thing won't come off. You'll have it lubed up so it's not dry, and that'll work out real well. So one of these we have to try and get on the back side. Have to get it in place just right. That's not where I want it. That's where I want it. Okay. All right. Now, got that one in. Have to put this one in, direct opposite from it. Which is right there. That's direct opposite from it. So now we're ready to turn. Ready to turn this, but you know, someone has to hold this in, and it's just me here. So let's see if we can't do it this way. Probably not, but let's give it a shot and see. That's not gonna work. All right, so gonna have to figure out how to hold this in here. Okay, so we're making progress. At first I had these nuts in here way too tight. I couldn't turn the axle once I got it in there, so I had to back off of them just a little bit, just enough so I can turn the axle. And now we're making progress walking these in. This one wants to fall out, so when I first started, to hold it in there, I had to take a rag and stuffed between the spider gear and the ring gear. That way, as I turned it, it would go a little bit and get hung up, so I'd have to come back here, take the rag out, get the gear repositioned. Now it's kind of holding itself in there. I'm gonna let you watch, see how we do. Now if they get hung up, holler at me, because you know I'm just a one-man show out here. A little help, you know. Alright, so having a great deal of difficulty getting the spider gears walked back in, and I'll show you what I've come up with. You see up in the top there, you'll see the pocket that those spider gears are supposed to go into. So if I can find a way to hold this flashlight so I can show you what I found out here. There's just a little bit of a rough ridge right as you go down into this pocket here, and this pocket is where that washer that I stuck on with the gear oil, I stuck it on the spider gear. Every time I try to walk that gear in here, this little rough edge pushes the washer off, and then it just kind of gets stuck there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get my Dremel, and I'm just going to smooth this leading edge off right here, and then I'm going to rotate the carrier until I get to the other pocket and just remove the leading edge of it here and see how that works, because they're not going in. And I have this as tight as I can and still be able to turn this passenger side shaft here. Right now my main problem is that washer on that spider gear is getting hung on that edge. So I'm going to try to get the Dremel and smooth that out, and we'll start over. Alright, it's been about, seems like about 9 years later. It's only been a couple of weeks. So I can say that it's extremely difficult to walk those spider gears back in with those washers on them. I took the Dremel tool and I smoothed out. There's a little lip. It's just this is a casting, and there's just a little lip from the casting that was on both sides. Smoothed that out with the Dremel tool, and still it was incredibly difficult to get those gears walked back in with the washers still on them. The washers kept coming off. I ruined one washer and had to order another one. And very slow, painstaking process, especially one-man operation, but I did get them back in there. So I'll share with you another little improvement I'm gonna do on this, and I've researched on it, and a lot of people are doing this, especially on these older ones, to maximize the life out of this rear end. People are installing a magnet This is the sump of the differential right down in here, and you know, it goes down in there in a little piece. People are installing a magnet inside of these things to pull all of the metal particles, the shavings that naturally does come off of these gears and stuff. So I've ordered a magnet, very strong magnet, and I'm gonna put it over here against the bottom, inside the differential, against the bottom there. It's got to be strong enough so it's not going to move around. And if you can see the right light, it drops down into a little sump down in here. So that's where I'm going to put the magnet. Waiting on the magnet right now, but I've put this passenger side shaft in and I've got the keeper on it and it's pulled back. And so I'll show you on the driver's side axle. I don't have the axle in, so let me push the end of it in. I'm sorry, it is in. So that's the end of the axle that I've pushed in right there, and we're ready to put the keeper on it. So what we do is, and I'm sorry for the shaking, trying to do this without the tripod. So I'm gonna put the keeper on my magnet. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to get this in here onto the end of the axle where it belongs. All right, now, and it's still really tight in there, even with the end of the axle pushed all the way in. All right, got you under here, and I'll just show you what I've been doing to get this thing in there. Like I say, we're not gonna beat it. We're just gonna tap it in. It's gonna go, and we're just gently helping it in there. All right, and there you go. Since I'm a one-man show, I'm just gonna try to do it this way. There you go. All right, so if you see your keeper is sitting nested in there real nice, and so all that part is back together, ready to put our big main pin in. Then we'll put our little keeper pin or little bolt. Okay, I've got my transmission in neutral, and so I can we'll rotate this thing around so we can get our main pin in there. Okay, so I've spun this around. We're going to put our main pin back in it. Little hole. Make sure it's lined up with the hole where we're going to be putting our little bolt. Yeah, it's going to be a little tight getting it in there because it's hard to line up exactly. The spider gears exactly where they need to be, so it's okay. We're just going to tap. So all we're doing is tapping. Don't beat on anything. Still have just a little ways more to go. Let's try that. Great, perfect. Okay, we got our thread locker on our small little bolt pin. We got it tightened down, so while we're waiting on our magnet to come in that we're going to put in here, we have to wait on it before we can get our cover back on. We got our nice freshly turned rotors back from the auto parts store, and gonna get our new brake pads put on. I always put a couple of lug nuts to hold that rotor in place, keep it from moving around too much on you. That way you can better position your brake caliper when you go to put that on. When you buy your brake pads, it's going to come with Usually it'll come with whatever hardware, little metal clips and such. In this particular model, we have to have these little slides that your brake pads glide on, and well, it would help if we took the old one off first. There we go. Always take your old one off first. It does tend to help. All right, you're gonna need to get a hammer and just kind of tap that in. Center it best you can. It'll try to seesaw on you, so just get it in there like that. Got another one that goes up top. I'm using a wooden mallet because I don't want to, don't want to damage this surface here. Okay, that one's already gone. It fell off when we took our caliper off to begin with. Center it. Got our caliper that's still resting down here. Now we're gonna need a screwdriver to pry these clips off to get this one out. There's nothing like a do-it-yourself project that goes wrong when somebody gets injured. So I always kind of try to predict the unpredicted, because that one's got a lot of wear. This one still has a little bit of brake material on it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use that brake pad that's still in there. Push that piston back with my piston compressor here. Once it tightens up, we're just gonna gently, we're just gonna gently and slowly press that piston. We're giving the fluid plenty of time to make it back up to the brake fluid reservoir. Okay, we got our piston compressed back inside the caliper. You'll see it's all the way back in there. So this is your inside one. See that clip that looks kind of like a cup? It's going to snap inside the recess in your piston. Okay. Now your other one has the other kind of clip on it. See these holes? There's a little nub in the pad, and that's what's going to line up with those holes, and then this clip is going to hold it all firm in place. Now, if you'll notice, one end has a notch and the other end doesn't. The notch has to go towards the bottom because we're going to sit your new pads and caliper. The notch is going to straddle this. All right, so all we do is we have to, and the new ones will slide much better than the old rusted ones, but we're going to try to push these in here. It should slide, we'll see. Okay, we got that one snapped in. Just make sure they're in there fully. So we got our notches aligned at the bottom, so no notches at the top. So we're gonna, this pad's come loose, so just get it back in there. No problem. Straddle the brake rotor, make sure you're lined up in the notch below. Then you're gonna tilt your tilt your rotor forward. I'm sorry, your caliper. All right, so we got him in here. Just check, make sure these bottom notches are on the rail. These are firmly against the rail, and then we're ready to put our 2 bolts in, which are 10 millimeter. I don't know what the torque spec on them is, but you know, don't go crazy on them. You just want to snug them, and that'll be sufficient. So our magnet did come in, and we're gonna put that. This is what they call an earth magnet. Very powerful, very strong magnet. So me and Angela tested it out on the kitchen fridge, and first of all, it almost pinched my finger putting it on. It actually pulled it out of my hand as I got close to the fridge, and then we almost couldn't get it back off. So I'm gonna put it. There's a nice area right in here. Purpose of the magnet, you ask? Anytime you got gears contacting each other, there's just normal wear that takes place. And so you're gonna have very small, almost microscopic fragments of metal in the gear oil, and they will stay suspended in the gear oil unless there's something that will draw them to it. I don't want it to be in the natural flow of the oil, the gear oil, because as this turns, and it will sling the gear oil up. It also goes into the tubes to lubricate the bearings and the seals at the ends of these axles. So I don't want to stick it in a place where it's going to interfere with that natural flow. So down here in the sump, that's a perfect place. So I'm going to try to get it in here without it sticking to something else. So that's going to be the chore. So it's even right now with my finger between it and the carrier here, it's wanting to stick. So I'm going to have to be very careful. And if I can get it over the right spot, then I can turn it loose. See, it's pulling really hard right now. And I think, there we go. Well, that magnet is in there, man. See if I can't. I mean, there's no repositioning it. It's there. Now, it's in a good spot. It's in a good spot. I wanted it kind of further over, but it's not in the way. It's not interfering with anything. It's there. That magnet will pull all the fragments to it. So having done that, now we're ready to put the cover back on. I'm actually going to sandwich the gasket between 2 thin layers of the special gasket maker. Put a thin layer on the differential itself, the gasket, put a thin layer on the cover, and then we'll torque our bolts down. I've just got some brake parts cleaner, spraying it on a rag, and really getting as much of this surface rust, any of the residue that may be left on here. We got to get all that off because we want a good clean seal. Definitely don't want any leaks. We got all this trouble. We certainly don't want any leaks causing us to want to readdress this thing. So just a little bit of elbow grease will save you a lot of heartache. All right. All right. So that surface is prepped. I'll go ahead and get the cover. Okay, so what you want to buy is the Permatex gear oil gasket maker. So this is specifically for this particular application. Got my cover. Let's get my gasket out. Let's go ahead and put a nice thin layer. let's just go ahead and, it's a little chilly out here today. It's about 50, 55, so this stuff is a little hard, but it's all right. All right, do you guys see anything I missed? Oh man, don't be afraid to speak out. You're not going to hurt my feelings. All right, so all right, that looks good enough. Now we're going to place our gasket. Just going to get it lined up. Let it get smushed around a little bit. All right, so this gasket does have a front and back to it. My bolt holes weren't lining up. I flipped it over, now they're lining up great, so go figure. Do the same thing as we did on the cover, basically. Just get some on there first. Then we're gonna come back, we're gonna smooth that out. Kind of like a kid with some finger paint. He's getting it everywhere. If you'll notice, I'm gonna put this cover on. It's looking a lot better than it was when we took it off. If you'll remember, that thing was pretty rusted and pitted. I'm a big fan of recycling your original parts, even when it comes down to nuts and bolts. You know, I promised you last time that there would be something exciting happen on this video, and I don't know if you call it exciting, but I mean, I do. Most of you DIYers will call it exciting, but we're gonna have a tool giveaway, and it's along those same lines, and so we'll talk about that at the end of this video. All right, we're just gonna snug these down first, just a little, get them to where they're snug, and then we're gonna torque. Now I looked up the torque spec, and I got anywhere from 28 to 38 foot-pounds. So we're gonna do the right thing, and we're gonna torque at 40. Alrighty, I think we're there. All right, so out of the way, if you've seen my clicking torque wrench, if you don't mind, let me know. Can't seem to find it, so we're going to use this antique torque wrench here. So we're going to go to 40. So, matter of fact, I'll tell you what we do. And get those as snug as I thought. How about we go to 20 first? Let's just skip every other one. How about that? That's going to be the A&A modified method. So let's go to 20, and then we'll come back and we'll go to the 40. It's usually better if you don't do it all at one time. All right, we got those. So now we're going back to the ones we skipped, and we're going to do 20. So when you get done with this video, go ahead and check out the brake caliper video. All right, so we're at 20 on everything. Now we're going to go on to the full 40. We're going to skip just like we did before. No, you guys can fast forward to the end if you like. I wish I could fast forward, but I don't have that option here. So there you have it. Got them all torqued. Like I say, this cover was really pitted and rusty and looked horrible. Original cover, original fasteners, all cleaned up, recycled, reused. Didn't go into the scrap pile. Okay, I'm having a little trouble getting you guys in here, so hope you can see, but this is the this is the plug here. Take you a 3/8 ratchet. I put a 3/8 extension on mine. Give me a little more room there. And we're going to crack this open, and then we're going to leave that out. Put a little fresh air in there for this gasket maker to set up. Let's go ahead and crack that open. Tell you what, how about we get a breaker bar? All right, third time's the charm here. Let's see if we can't get this thing out. What we'll try to do is get a breaker bar on here, and just if we can just get it to crack open, then we can get it all the way off. But just a little persuasion. I don't keep swinging it too far. Yeah, she's coming out. You know, the worst thing that could happen is you get all this repair done, and you can't get the plug out, or it strips out, it's rusted in, and you never get it out. Could be why they recommend that you pull this plug out first before you start the repair. I don't know, just something to think about. I wanted to show you guys something. The field plug I took out, this is it. It had some metal particles. It looks like gray goop. It's kind of creamy like. Well, that's the metal particles I was talking about. This plug is slightly magnetic, but not a lot. I mean, it'll barely hold itself to something metal. It's a very weak magnet. I mean, I barely have to touch it and it comes off. So I stand corrected. Ford did put a magnet, and yes, it did provide some protection. However, we've got a stronger magnet. So there, how about that? Well, we've just completed refilling the differential in the old Ford, and I couldn't get you under there with me, so I don't have any footage of that. But it took 3 quarts plus the 4-ounce bottle of friction modifier, which on the Ford, the 8-inch and the 9.75 inch, it's 4 ounces, and then if you have I think the 10-inch goes to 6 or 8 ounces. So we put that, and then we'll put the gear oil. But I'm gonna tell you, if you have a leftover bottle like this, or one of the old gear oil bottles that has the nice slender neck, hang on to those bottles because you're gonna need it. This is the only thing that would get in there. It was so tight, and you're only gonna be able to squeeze about a half a quart at a time because you just can't get an angle on it. Now, you may be thinking the same thing I was, well, I'll stick a hose, on the end of here, just turn it up and squeeze it. Don't do it. Don't do it. There will be a bloodbath in gear oil. And, trust a guy when he tells you that, because I've been there and I've fought the battle for you. So don't go repeating what I did. Use a slender bottle, get about half a quart at a time, refill your bottle, half a quart, Mine took 3 quarts. And I used the Motorcraft. You know what the book recommended for the Motorcraft, 75, 140 synthetic gear oil. And so that's what we did. And I put the way you know it's full is, you know, your fill hole. We took that plug out. When it starts to trickle back out of there, that's your mark. That's your level. You don't want to get any fuller than that. Once it starts trickling back out of that hole, that's it. Put your plug in. I put some Teflon tape on mine instead of a thread locker, because if someone happens to have to get back into it in the future, perhaps the Teflon tape will help get it out easier. Put that back in, clean up the residue on your differential casing, and then just start cleaning up the mess, because there will be a mess. Pig mat. If you've never heard of pig mat, it's a nice, it's like an industrial roll of nice thick paper towels. It's perforated. You can tear these off. You're going to need these. These will be your friend. The blue rolls of shop towels, go ahead and get 9, 10, 12 cases of those. Those are really handy. Much better than the paper towels that you're going to steal from your wife from in the house. The blue shop towels are great. That's about it. And okay, so the tools. I'm a big fan of recycling original hardware, original parts if you possibly can. Most of the time the manufacturer has stamped their name, the part number. You know, all that's valuable, if not you know, increasing the market value, which a lot of times it does increase the market value. But you know, you just have an original piece when you maintain the original parts, and the fasteners as well. You know, the old Ford tractor, I mean, it's a 1963 model. Recycling all the fasteners, and you know, you may take one off and you're like, man, this thing is totally cruded, gummed up, rusted. You know, it's okay. If you don't have a tap and die set, which this is just a small one, this is probably my most used tool that I have. You can get the standard or the metric, or you can get a set that has both standard and metric. This is just a small standard set. I have a larger standard set. I do not have any metric sets though, and you do occasionally run into the need for those. And so I'm going to be giving away one of these sets. It's going to be about like this one right here. I don't have it to show you. Instead of the blue case, it'll be a red case, but it'll be a nice small standard set. We appreciate you watching. You know, some of these videos I know are kind of like watching paint dry, but you know, I hope you get some entertainment out of it. And you know, if it helps you in your project, you know, that's what it's all about. You know, this is a throwaway society. You know, throw it away and replace it, whatever. Well, us DIYers, we like to fix it. You know, I know Pastor of mine once told me, and it stuck with me. You know, use it up, wear it out, make it do, or do without. And it rings true when something you've used for years, lawnmower, something breaks, and you can't afford a $3,000 lawnmower. Well, just take the initiative. Try to understand what's broken. Ask for help if you need it. And you'll get a lot of personal satisfaction if you can repair that for a very small amount of money and get many more years of service out of it. So, if you would, subscribe, click the notification bell, and be on the lookout for future videos. We will, on a future episode, get Mobile Tech Andrew in here. We're going to do a project together. Have no idea what it is yet, but I can guarantee you it'll be interesting. If nothing else, you can get a laugh out of it. We appreciate you watching. Have a good day, and we'll see you next time.